Alright, welcome to this chapter. Now we're going to start animating the bouncing slime. The reference you're going to see is on the screen. It's going to be this cute bouncing slime animation, and I'm going to walk you through how to do it. It's actually not that hard to do. And once you do the bouncing slime, I think you're going to be ready for more complex character animations because you're going to understand how keyframe works, how squash and stretch works, how location, rotation, and scale works with the keyframes, with the bones, and so on. So now we can begin. First, we want to set up our timeline and we want to set up our frame range. So make sure to go to the output properties and make sure your frame rate is set to 30 FPS. You can set it to whatever you want, but I usually like to use 30 FPS. I can also go to my timeline, and I think frame 250 is a lot. So I'm going to go here and set my end frame to frame 24. Now again, if I want to frame my timeline, I can hover over it and press on the home key. And home key works for everything. It works for the viewport and it works for the timeline as well. So now make sure you set the start frame to 0 as well. I'm going to do the same thing. Set this to 0, set this to 0. Also turn on the auto keyframing so that we don't have to place the keyframes manually. Now press on keying and then set this to location, rotation, and scale. And now we are ready to start animating. So first, what we want to do is loop the animation over and over again. So looping the animation means the animation which looks infinite, which goes on and on forever. And if you want to do that, you want to make sure that your start keyframe and end keyframe are exactly the same. So what I mean by that is that if I want to animate the slime going up and down, I want to have the down position on frame 0 and exact same down position on frame 24 and then up position on frame 12. So let's actually start animating and you're going to see what I mean. So first let's go to frame 0. Now select your slime outline, the bone outline, press on Ctrl Tab, enter the pose mode and select the root bone. And once you select the root bone, make sure you're on frame 0 and press on I to set the first keyframe. Now, if I want my keyframe to be exactly the same on frame 24, I can select this keyframe, press on Shift D, duplicate this, and then place it on frame 24. Now we have the exact same keyframes connecting with each other. So now the slime is going to stay in one place. If I play my animation, nothing's going to happen. But now, the middle of 0 and 24 is frame 12. So now I'm going to move to frame 12. And what I'm going to do is move the slime up. So I'm actually going to need a little assistance. So I'm going to press on N and then go to item. I want to see how tall I move the slime. So I want to press on G, C, and then let's move the slime up slightly, somewhere over here. So now you can see Blender shows me that I moved the slime to around 3 meters high. So now I'm going to go to frame 0 and watch what happens. You can see I have this bouncing slime animation. The slime goes up and down over and over again. And this is called a looping animation. If you have your first frame and last frame exactly the same, you can create amazing looping animation. Now, one trick I want to show you is if you want to preview your animation without any bones, you can hover over here and then disable the overlays. So click on Show Overlays. And now I'm only going to be able to see the slime moving up and down. Now, before we move on to the next steps, I actually want to show you how to loop the animation properly in Blender. Now, if you notice, there's one frame stop of this animation because frame 0 and frame 24 are exactly the same. So what I recommend you to do, instead of setting the end frame to frame 24, you can set it to frame 23. So I can move this by one frame and then set it to frame 23 because 24 and 0 are the same, and then Blender plays them twice and then it's going to slow down the animation. So now if I play it over and over again, you can see it loops more properly. So now that it's out of the way, I think we can move on to the next steps. So the next step we want to do is add squash and stretch. We want to add squash when the slime hits the floor. So when the slime hits the floor on frame 0 or frame 1, it's going to squash like this. And when the slime goes up, it's going to stretch like this. And it's also going to stretch right before it hits the floor, somewhere over here. So now let's do it step by step. So I'm going to select the root bone and then go on frame 22 or 23. So let's say I want to go on frame 22, right before it hits the floor, around 2 frames. And don't worry, we can move the frames and adjust the frames later on. So now what I want to do is select this keyframe and then select this top part. And as you can see, the top part doesn't have any keyframes. So what I recommend you to do is select the top part, select the bottom part as well, and let's add those same keyframes we added with the root bone. So go to frame 0, press on I to make sure they have a keyframe set. So Blender remembers that they're in this formation right here. Go to frame 12, press on I to set a keyframe again, and then go to frame 24 and then press on I. If you cannot go past this, make sure to go to playback and then temporarily disable this limit frame range. And now you're going to be able to go past the start and end frames. So go to frame 24 and then press on I. So now we have keyframes set for these. It's important to set keyframes for different bows because Blender has to remember about in what kind of shape and formation they are. So now I'm going to go to frame 23 and add a squashing animation for the slide. So I'm going to press on G, select this top portion, press on G, Z, and then move it up and make sure it's squashed. And now let's see what happens if I play my animation. You can see the slime squashes right before it hits the floor, which already looks better. So what we want to do is right around here, the slime squashes, then it hits the floor and it needs to stretch a lot. So I'm going to go to frame 0, for example, and then stretch it all the way down. So I'm going to press on G and then Z and then move this down. But the issue is that when I stretch the slime, it becomes a lot smaller. The reason why it becomes a lot smaller is because it's changing the size vertically, but it's not changing the size horizontally. And we want to change the size horizontally as well because we want to preserve the volume. Because if the slime squashes like this, it's going to remain the same in terms of volume. So if the slime squashes like this, it also has to squash like this. So what we want to do is take this first of all, stretch the slime down. Now select the second keyframe by shift left clicking, press on S, shift Z, and then scale it out like this. So now if you watch the animation, look what happens. The slime stretches here and then squashes over here. But I think the squash is a bit too much, so I'm going to select this and then move this up slightly. So now we have this cute squash and stretch animation. But the reason why it looks weird is because the frame 0 and frame 24 are no longer the same. So what we can do is select this bone. Now select the keyframe on frame 0, press on Shift D, and then place it on frame 24 so that it remains the same. And now we have this cute slime animation, which already looks a lot better than what we started with. So remember how we preserved the volume on the squashing animation? We squashed it and then we took this and then scaled it up on the horizontal direction. We can do the same thing on the stretching animation. So when the slime stretches and moves up, it's also gonna move in like this. So we can do the same thing over here. So select this bone, go to frame 23, select the top bone, select the bottom bone, press on S, Shift C, and then shrink this slightly inwards. So that when the slime stretches, it's also going to become smaller on this direction, so that it preserves the volume and it's more physically accurate.